let's continue working on our belt rig. So our next step will be to go through and start to rename our joints. So for this one on the character's right hip, we can rename this to something along the lines of BN R belt B01. Copy the name and use that to rename the opposite joint. And then for our hinge rig, we can go ahead and rename the buckle half as follows: BN buckle 01. Copy that. For our end joint, we'll rename this to BE buckle end, since it will not be skin to. Now what this means is that we'll also add a few extra joints to control the deformations around the buckle and around the strap. Alright, so we'll get to that. What I'd like to do is take the radius of both of these joints and go ahead and drop that, since we'll be adding joints on top of these. So I went ahead and dropped the radius down to 0.5. We could do the same thing for the back half. Again, we'll drop the radius to 0.5 and rename these to BN strap 01, and the end joint BE strap end. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and work on our hinge rig. Now, you might have an idea of what we'll use. We're actually going to use an IK system to drive the hinging. That way, when we pull from, let's say, the root end, it'll hinge from the end and vice versa. So it'll give us a really neat control on our belt. All right, so we can go ahead and access our IK handle tool. Go into the options. Let's make sure it's set to the rotate plane solver. We're going to connect from our root to the end joint. So again, as we start to pull the end around, notice the hinging. And then the joint that we add on top of this end joint, we'll want to have locked down by the buckle end joint. That way there's no separation as we pull around this hinge. Okay, great. So let's say we go ahead and do the same thing for the strap. Again, we connect from BN strap to its end joint. Let's go ahead and rename our IK handles. It's going to be RP strap 01. And in the front, this one will be renamed to RP buckle. Okay, great. So at this point, we can go ahead and add our extra joints. So we'll go to component mode. And again, we're adding these directly on top of our hinge rig. So we'll go ahead and run our CJNT tool. Select the next vertex, press the G key. Do the same thing for the back half. Okay. So at this point, we'll want to rename these joints. Let's go back to object mode. What I'll do is go ahead and grab one of the joints we've already named for the belt. Use that to help us rename our new joints faster. So this one in the front, this is going to be belt A. I'll copy the name and use that to rename the back joint. And this will be belt C. And then on the left side, we'll do the same. So this will be L belt A. We can copy that name and use that to rename the back joint. Alright, being that we'll want this to work for our game character, we'll want to make sure that all of these joints are parented to our skeleton. Alright, so what we'll do is grab each joint except for our hinge rig end joints. So we'll grab the root joints of those hinge rigs. And we'll take all of these and parent them to SPB. We want this belt rig to be fully controlled by the joint that is directly related to each of these joints. So it's very easy to find out what joint that is simply because this spine joint is what is closest to our belt rig. So this is going to work out great once we have the belt bound and we have our control objects added. All right, excellent. So at this point, this would be a good time to go ahead and stop the lesson. That way we can start to build our control objects in the following lesson.